Okay, so how do I get the user's name right away? What's the code that I type in? You either tell me or type in the chat. Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna make sure we always store it, variable, and then input. Now we're gonna pretend like it's a regular semester. So we're gonna get 4 grades. And what should this look like? Hey, Sam. So what should this look like when I get the grade? What should the code look like? You can type it in the chat, or Daniel, welcome. Yeah. So what are they gonna be though, Aiden? How are they gonna look? How's one of them gonna look at least? What goes with those? Anybody else too can jump in. So here they are. Now Mr. Clement said int input, and Aiden's saying just input. Are we only gonna have integers, or could there be decimals? I'm unsure right now. I can't remember. I don't think I've ever put a decimal in someone's grade. But I guess we could be safe. So I'm just going to copy and paste these. So don't retype them all, but obviously you don't want to say first grade every time. Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to, you choose what you want to choose. Sorry, I just saw the chat there. So I'll change these back. And how do we calculate the average now? Do I have to do anything special here, or this is gonna work perfectly? Yeah, definitely brackets first. If not, it'll do. If not, it'll definitely do grade. It'll just do grade 4 divided by 4, and then add everything else on there. So, you've got the grade. We got the name. We've got the grade so far. Now, what we're gonna do is determine whether they get merit or honors. And what's the range for merit? Can't remember right now. I know it's like 79.5 is the high point. What's the lowest point? Thanks, Mr. Clement. So how do I write that out? How do I write out like the person getting in that range, like to give them merit? What would my code be? Because we only wanted to print out if they get between 74.5 and 79.4, we want it to print out that they got merit. How do we write that? You can type in the chat. So Aiden, almost perfect. You want to do the greater than first and then equals to. So just switch your signs around. And then, so if the average grade is greater than or equal to 74.5 and the average grade is, and then it should be less than or equal to 79.4. But just make sure you do the greater than or less than first and then equals to instead of the, I guess, yeah. So instead of doing that, like Mr. Clement said, you can say less than this, and this includes just in case someone for their average gets, yes, as you can see in the chat, 79.499999 would definitely be still merit. We would not round you up. We're not that nice. And then now we just print the response. So what do we want to say to that person? Other than you got merit, like, should we say something nice like congratulations or not be nice? I don't know. I don't know what you guys are feeling today. Okay. There. That works. What should our next condition be for us to check? I missed a lot of what you said. Can you try again? What's the next range of grades? What gets you honors? Oh yeah, honors is everything above 79.5. So what do I write for that? Not equals to? I'm going to do the equals to here. So we went, oh, not 74.9. We went up to this point, but didn't include it. So for this one here, we're just going to include it and say everything above this. And then anyone can type out what our response should be. I knew there was going to be someone quick in the chat for that. I will put this on the classroom as well. I'm not surprised you had it pre-typed. I'm actually waiting for the next one for you to get ready. And then do we have any other conditions? Or do we just go to else? Just an else? So everything else is going to go in here? Over, who gets, I've never given someone over 100. Oh, okay. So we do our elif again. Average grade is greater than 100. We're going to print like, are you sure? Is what you're saying, Nick? Oh, like here? Oh, like if it's between this and 100. I see what you're saying. We'll do both though. Because if you're saying this, so if we're saying this part, we still should have this here. Because if you're saying this is a range that we should be in, we should then almost like error check. Are there any other conditions we want to check, or do we just want to fire everything into the else now? Time to use, okay. So this is for everything other than 74.5. So just the else, that'll catch everything else. And then does anybody have a statement we want to give them, a response for getting things that aren't in merit or honors? What should we say to them? I know we're waiting. There's usually someone who's really good at like adding these things in. Wow, all caps too. So if we were to run this, Doug had a bad semester here with one class. So we didn't actually tell them what their average was. We could obviously print out a statement that had their average and then told them what they got, because this is kind of not great yet. So we could just do our F string here. Your average. And I'm going to dot to F and then put on a new line here. Great work. So I'm just going to copy that. Let's see. Actually, we should tell them their average that we're disappointed in too. Let's see what he would have got there. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. And your average was 75.75. Great work. Merit was. Yeah, like said there, if you want the other things to happen. So what we want to do is, like we were saying yesterday, you don't want to have when things are connected. So this average grade, there are all these different scenarios that are linked together, and we don't want to have if 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 and then another if here, because these are all connected in a way. Your average can only be between this range, this range. It shouldn't be above that, or it's everything else. And this is more efficient, and that's what we were saying yesterday. It's more efficient because your computer doesn't check all four checks. It just checks one of them, or like checks the first one. And when Doug got merit here, the computer goes, okay, he got merit. Here it is. Now I go down to the end here, and I'm done this code. If we had done it like we had done it Friday with multiple if statements, what would have happened was it would have checked here, done the code, then stopped here and been like, now I need to check this. Now I need to check this. Now I need to check this, which isn't as good to do. It's not completely wrong, but it's not as good to do. I would do it if things are linked, you want to put them together. You wouldn't have here if name equals, sorry, I'm going to pick on Nick. If name equals Nick, then print something. Else if average grade equals this. You don't want those two things linked with an else if. Only the whatever you put in the if should be in the else if. It should be the same variable. Does that make sense? Aiden, that make sense? Both the explanations? Okay. Any other questions with these? Um, well, part organization, part efficiency, right? You don't want to our code is still small, but you don't want to put stress on the computer to run through all these different checks if it can do it in a shorter runtime. I think it doesn't say it on Python, I'm pretty sure. But you want to do the least amount of computing power, and this would be the least amount of computing power. Because the best case is what happened where it runs through here, does its code, and then goes to the next thing. The worst case is it does have to go through everything, but you don't want to always push it to the worst case scenario. You want to put it to the best case always, or like the the better cases. If you go to university for computer science, it's called you do big N notation, which is runtime, your order runtime, and doing more checks makes it longer to run versus this would have a lower runtime, a lower order N. Are there any other questions with if statements, else ifs? And remember, like I said yesterday, you have if, else if, you need that else. You can't just leave it blank because you want to catch everything else that's there. If our last else if was going to be else if average grade is less than 74.5, then we would it's useless to put that because that is the last check. And if you can't see what the chat is, Mr. Clement said, like, and typically you want to do things like even better would have been the way Mr. Clement's saying to do it here, where you have you check your highest range. So you start with average is greater than 100, then you check if average is greater than greater than or equal to 79.5, because then it knows it has to be between that range. And then if you check the next one being greater than this range, it would check, and then it goes through and checks that one. So that would be the best way of doing it organizationally. The way that Mr. Clement has it is better than this. And that would be, um, I'll do it in comments here, would be, I'm just going to steal that. So you'd have this, then you'd have this, then you'd have this, then you would have else. Aside from saving you more typing, it is actually better to do it this way because it checks it better too. I would probably have equals here though. Yeah, like the chat, like in the chat, it'll check if it's over 100. If it's not over 100, it's implied that this is between 79.5 and 100. This is implied that it's between this and this. This is implied that it's everything else that's not there. So if there are no other questions yet, you have two things to do today. This one I said is due on Friday. You have this one is actually getting marked, so kind of like the first program with the restaurant and the Fahrenheit Celsius checker. There's 4 programs here. You're choosing one from each. So one from each pair. So you're choosing either to do this demerit points question, or you're choosing to do the alarm clock program. So you choose one of those, do it. They're the easier ones. The graduation program, oh, shoot. Well, we checked that. I guess I did the bonus for you. So you can write the graduation program, which checks if they are actually going to graduate. So don't worry about method 2. Leave that out. But you check how many courses they earned, how many hours they got, and then you ask them how many English credits, math credits, science credits, art, geography, phys ed, and then the rest are optional. So you want to make sure they have the mandatory courses. So that's why this one here, it would output, sorry, you can't get enough credits, you didn't get enough English and math. We'll see what else there would have been. But basically, every time they're under the mandatory courses, then you tell them what they're lacking in. If they were under 30 credits in general, you tell them you're under 30 credits. If they were under the community service hours, they'd be under the community service hours. And then if you ask them what their average is, you can give them the code that we did today with bonus. Or what you're doing here is your people are going to give you the month and give you the year, and you tell them how many days there are. And you can do the leap year calculation that's there. So you're choosing either days of the month or graduation as one of your programs, and you're choosing alarm clock or demerit points as one of them. I put it due for Thursday. I'm here all day. Mr. Clement's here all day. We're on the chat. We might not be in the meet the whole time, but we can open that up later if you need help with anything. We can share screens. Just let us know in the chat. The other thing you're doing today is tomorrow. Ideally, we're back in class, and we're going to do that handwritten test. Um, Here's what it'll cover: basic printing, formatting our printing, getting input from the user, doing some math variables, and our if statements. So everything we did last week up and then up to yesterday, today. And here are some sort of like some questions that you can think about. Now on that test, you might have to, it might say, tell me how you would code this type of like, tell me how you would code an average grade. And you would just say, get user input, like, and then write out like name equals input, blah, blah, blah. If there's something like if you forget a bracket or something, or you forget double quotes, I'm not going to take marks off because obviously you're not checking on the computer, but just get into the habit of being able to write out code by hand too. Um, but that would be good things to know how to do. You can use any of the code that's on the classroom that I posted. That can be on your screen. Um, we'll do this the next day we're back in class. So if tomorrow happens to be a no bus day, we won't do it at home. I want to do this at school when you're there sitting with us. So do not. This will happen the next in class day, whether that be tomorrow or the next day. Any questions on what you're doing? If there are no questions now, I will see you again at, I think I put on the classroom 1:30. We'll have a check-in. It'll be grade 10s and 11s in the meet, and we'll do it at 1:30. I'll post it'll probably be the same. I'll make sure I post the link just in case it changes. Okay? Yeah, what's up, Nick?